I thought you both want to leave.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Ad Hoc Pool Committee meeting for October 21st, 2020. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the Emergency Directive 006 from Governor Sisolak as amended by succeeding orders. There is limited in-person attendance for this meeting as a result. We have provided a means for people to email comments in. We will also have our normal public comment period where people may call into the meeting. The items listed on the agenda may be taken out of order. 2 or more agenda items for consideration may be combined, and any item on the agenda may be removed or related discussion may be delayed at any time. I'll call the meeting to order and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we'll open the initial public comment period. Public comment during this period is limited to items on the agenda. Each speaker will be given up to 5 minutes to speak. And Ms. Callaway, were there any emailed comments for the initial period? No. Thank you. Anyone wishing to speak, the phone number for public comment is 702-589-9629.
Go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, committee members. Fred Volz for the record. These comments relate to agenda item number 4. As the City Council recently approved a consultant to perform a cost estimate of repairing the existing municipal swimming pool rather than building a new facility, it seems premature to talk about any type of ballot financing for the June 2021 election. With the various code upgrades required in a rebuilding of the existing pool, the projected price tag will likely come in somewhere between a minimum of $20 million and $30 million. The design this committee has outlined for a new pool has already been projected in the $33 million range, not that far off from the $45 million rejected by voters already. With financial bailouts by the federal government of cities uncertain at best, an influx of new funds can't be counted on any more than existing municipal revenues are certain because of protracted impacts to the economy from the virus. Either new construction or rebuilding the pool are expensive propositions for which Boulder City lacks money in hand to accomplish. It would be ill-advised to siphon funds from other, more pressing capital projects, especially given the low number of pool users. The consultant will likely take 2 to 3 months to complete its work, bumping right up against the deadline for submitting a June 2021 ballot question. Any ballot question asking for more public money to build a new pool complex or rebuild the existing pool needs to be deferred until this committee has the consultant's cost calculations on rebuilding and an analysis by Parks and Recreation of costs and logistics in partnering with Henderson to use its existing swimming facilities. With these 3 options, Boulder City residents can decide if the cost-benefit model actually justifies one approach or another. I would ask that these comments be added verbatim to the record. Thank you.
Thank you. The phone line is available. If anyone wishes to make public comment, the phone number is 702-589-9629. Again, we're in the initial public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak, the phone number is 702-589-9629. All right, hearing no others, we will close the initial public comment period and move to our first item, approval of the minutes of the September 15th meeting. Are there any questions or comments on the minutes from the last meeting? Anyone wishing to make a motion then for approval of the minutes?
I so moved that we approve the minutes as written.
Ms. Jeffries, could you turn your microphone on and repeat the motion, please?
Yes, I can. I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting as written.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we'll move to item number 2 for possible discussion. Discussion and provide recommendations regarding the design features and elements of a new aquatic facility. Mr. Luttrell.
Good afternoon, Mayor and committee members. As the Mayor just stated, okay. Yep. Here to provide looking for recommendations on design features. As you'll see in the packet, I believe it was page 24 or 23. We have a list of elements that has been most frequently brought up during our past meetings. Would like to run through those, see if, I lost my pen, there it is. See if that's still the consensus or if we want to add or remove any of these items. And then also I have the 2 maps that are in the packet. I've got them hung up over here. And then I've got the little, I'm not sure how Julie called my Lego pieces of the different parts of the pool where we can try to pick out where we want it on the complex or on the whole pool grounds. So if we want to look at that list of design elements, I believe on page 23, does anybody have anything that they definitely don't want or anything they see missing?
Any questions or comments?
Yeah,
Mr.
actually,
Stevens?
I would like to point out one thing on the layout of the pool and where the building is that contains, maybe I should walk over there, but the building should be, I believe, on the west side of the pool complex, leaving the north and south side of the pool complex open. And the reason why I think is because we get north and south winds. And if we put the roll-up doors north and south facing, we can control the airflow and air quality inside the pool, which something Heritage Pool does not have. And the wind is always blowing north and south in Boulder here, pretty much. I looked it up on the wind finder. And we can roll these up and control the temperature and the humidity inside the pool. So I think if we move the building kind of where it's at now, at the pool, with the office on the west side.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely note that.
I think that would
when
be-
we ever proceed to, and that is a very valid point. The reason it's set up the way it is right now is there was discussion of trying to reuse the racquetball courts. And that's why I asked staff to overlay it there.
I
It
see.
doesn't mean that's where it needs to go.
I see, yeah. It makes sense. But either way, just kind of enough to get some airflow, I think it would benefit
Okay.
in the long run. And another thing, I might as well just kind of go through what I was thinking. Where those doors are to open up either side, north or south, maybe should have a gate around the doors. That way, when you do open them up, it's for security, people not walking in and out of the pool. And then when you do have a swim meet, you could have a gate, like I said, north or south, but the gate can open up for more access because parents walk in and out, grandparents walk out to the grass, lay their stuff out in the grass for easy ups, things like that for big events.
Okay.
They won't be open all the time, but
That reminds me of, there's an aquatic center down in Lake Havasu that I've been to that they do have the roll-up doors.
Yeah.
And they've got, I don't know if it was a splash pad or just a play area right outside, but that's fenced in. The only way to get into the main facility is through the main door, but, so kids and parents
Exactly.
can go outside, but they're still
exactly.
secure. Yep.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's very important to make sure that security is, and we were thinking about fencing the whole facility.
Yep.
To prevent one access in.
Good.
So you can control who's
Yeah.
coming in
Yeah.
and who's going out.
Yeah. Boy, I got 5 things I wrote down, so maybe I'll just keep going. Another thing I was thinking was like a sunbathing area for the moms and dads. I don't know if that's possible, but maybe that could be outside one of those gates or out a roll-up door. But because I think moms and dads, sometimes you want to bring your kids to the pool, let them play. It's nice to lay out, get some sun, soak up some vitamin D to get rid of the COVID. And anyhow, and then I think we should retain the lower left corner of the park for, I mean, it's kind of my own personal opinion. If not, it's okay. But all the school reunions, class reunions are held down there for years and years with 4th of July parade and all.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
I was just going to ask if, Terry, if you could just quickly, I mean, just for my sake, if you could just kind of point over there with the first couple of comments that you were talking about with the north and south, just so, because I'm a visual person here, so that would definitely be helpful to me. I don't know if we can get a camera on that or not, but.
Yeah, so basically like just this complex itself, because it'll be enclosed, probably in an enclosure. And if we
Hold on, Terry's gonna bring you the mic.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Presentation.
All right, so the north is this way. And if we put doors, I'm just thinking 2 on the south side, 2 on the north side. And then the wind, we can open them up and because it's continually blowing. In the summer it's blowing this way, and in the winter it's blowing this way. So, and if you go to Heritage, the air quality in there it's really stagnant and kind of, you almost want to just stand outside, before your kid goes, you'd run in there, go watch and come out. So this would help, especially when you're in there trying to breathe and anyhow. But then the gated area, I was thinking is, if you put a gate, it could be part of that sun laying out for the parents, and then also, I don't know, I think it's a good idea.
No, yeah, I see now. I was kind of putting it all together in my head, but I sometimes hate to assume that I know what's being said, and then only to later find out that I was assuming wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Any other questions or comments? Question I had is, when we look at this, what's commonly known as the Girl Scout building, do we know who owns that property? Is it the city?
The property is owned by the city. However, in 1940, and I have the papers, I got a copy of the paper from the Boulder City News when the city made agreement to let them use the property. The Girl Scouts had built the building with volunteer help, operate the building on city property.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the configuration of this now, with the pools being in the back there, my question is, we want to maintain whatever we can of the green space. I think Mr. Stevens, the comment he made about that lower left corner and also the upper part of the park, although the lower part of the park is heavily utilized also for 4th of July, it seems if we could move some of these pieces around, can we move the pools closer to 6th Street and reconfigure the office in some way to try and better utilize that particular space there.
Now, are you trying out of the way? Are you talking about?
Your mic's not on. Sorry.
You'll need your third hand for this.
I'm not very good at multitasking. Are you talking?
Yes, move that part of it. You know, the other thing, I do realize that we've got the 4 tennis courts there. You know, the way it is right now, it's pictured to lose 2 of those tennis courts.
Yeah.
You know, my idea is to try and preserve as much as we possibly can.
What happens if we turn that pool, yeah, like that, and then slide it up? Now we're talking. Are we gonna try to retain the pool while we build the pool?
Well, that was the initial discussion is,
Okay.
you know, if we don't, we were estimating, Mr. Luttrell, something like a minimum of 1 year, possibly longer, that we would be without a pool.
Yeah, I'm thinking at least 18 months. If it could be longer than that, depending on how construction goes.
What happens if you slide it up to the right over those bathrooms, those old bathrooms there, yeah? Would we use the office and lobby of the existing pool now while we build the pool? And then once the pool's built, then demo down the rest, use trailers for a little while?
Yeah, if it's the decision to keep the existing pool open,
Yeah,
I'd see us using the whole facility
yeah,
as we're building the new one.
yeah. That almost looks pretty good right there.
And if we could kind of put it in stages, if we were to build the pool first, we could demo the existing pool after the new pool is open, and then we could figure out how we connect the office to that racquetball, however we want to do it. That's the kid area, outdoor kid area. However we want to fit that in after the fact.
I guess here being the idea that we would construct the pool portion of this first, and then once that part is complete, then that way we still have the pool available. Then we potentially move over to this other thing and adding that right there. It certainly does keep a lot more of the original footprint, which I think, you know, there's sentimental value to that.
Yeah, we could definitely put it in the contract documents that this is to be phased. The existing pool, the whole facility is to remain open. They could build the new pool and then demo and then start the offices.
Yeah, with that, you could almost retain the racquetball courts if you wanted to, or at the end, down the road, phase that in as those deteriorate. Yeah, so if you did that pool first right here. Okay. Yeah, if you did the pool first, then yeah, I like it. I don't know, I'm just trying to come up here because I feel like we got to put our hands on it,
Yeah.
you know?
I do think. Sorry. Yeah, I do think this is, I mean, it obviously, like you said, before we go into the racquetball court and all that stuff is still there, and it is still, at least with a phased approach like this, I don't know what that does for cost, but it certainly allows for maximum flexibility so that we can retain as much use and amenities for our community in the interim while this progress goes. Can you speak to that? If we were to do this in phases, does that, you know, inherently, obviously that probably stretches it out. How does that affect the cost and all that sort of stuff that goes into this?
There's 2 different ways to think of the phasing. One is it's the same contract, but the contractor comes in, builds the new pool, demos the existing, builds the offices. That would increase the price a little bit just because they couldn't just come in and knock everything out of the way and build. But if you were to do the other phase that I'm thinking of is do these two parts while leaving the existing, and then in 5-10 years we come back and build the fitness center and the racquetball after the fact, then that would be even more expensive. Partly just because costs go up, and partly because you'd pay new mobilization and just a whole new contract instead of having it all grouped in one. So that's the two different phases I was thinking.
I do think it, at least this one down here, we do still have some of the office space, some of the racquetball court, and then we also have included additional, it looks like fitness area, racquetball courts and stuff like that. So, there's also the potential that, look, I'm not saying that great new facilities aren't appreciated, but it might be one of those things where we do still have, these aspects and these amenities that the community can utilize, and that, should we come to the point where for whatever reason they've not been able to be maintained to the point that they can be used or are necessary, then we can address that issue. But I'm still a little not entirely sold that we need to reimagine the racquetball courts and reimagine the fitness and all that. If we had a magic wand, obviously we'd have the best pool in the world, but we don't. So I do like the idea of the phasing, and I like the way this up here looks on the top as far as the layout goes, and especially in maintaining closer to our original layout without interfering too much with some of the other things that already exist there. So that's, just looking at it like this, at this first suggestion, I certainly, I think it looks good. I don't know if there's other suggestions or anything that might like more, but.
I have a question. In this presentation you gave where it eliminated the 2 tennis courts, what was the plan for when the original pool goes away? Is that just going to be then demoed and landscaped or something?
Yeah, that was the original plan. We're trying to keep the same amount of greenscape as we have today. That isn't to say that we build this and when we demo the remainder portion, we can't put more tennis courts over there, or pickleball. I know that's becoming a big sport.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Question 2. Go to this microphone.
Yes, please.
Okay. Is it working? Now, you don't have the second tennis court blocked off on the upper model that you're manipulating. You only have
There'd just be one that was.
Okay. Because I'm thinking if you want more green space, a lot of us want more to continue to have the green space around Broadbent Park and around. So I'm just thinking, and there are so many tennis courts in the school park. There are tennis courts all over this town. And if we can maintain, if you moved it over one more, like you do in the bottom one, because you're showing 3 still existing. Mm-hmm. And then it seems like when the demolition of the old one, after that, again, need to keep that pool going, until the construction's done. And so I'm just thinking about how much park space you could have, where the demolition is too, if you don't keep building all this other extraneous stuff. That again, I agree, it needs to be delayed until they have the finances or whatever, because again, we want the citizens to approve the ballot, whatever it comes up saying, and they want a pool with the priorities that you listed here. I think I have to go through all of them again, but so I just was wondering how that was going to work. Is just taken away, if you don't take away all the 2 courts that you said, like you're not doing there, then you're losing green space, not gaining it.
Yep.
I think too, we need to keep in mind the access to the pool itself. I think what Terry's done there, positioning that, that seems to utilize that space better, but now you've got further to walk and, what all can be done there. One possibility is, we do have some space within that facility, perhaps talking to the Girl Scouts about what they use that and what the city might be able to provide them. Because that building seems to be the one thing that prevents it from moving towards 6th Street and allowing the existing pool to remain open, bring it closer to 6th Street for the little easier access from the parking along 6th Street. 6th Street also seems to be a very wide street. What about a possibility of moving the south edge of the park out further into 6th Street?
Yeah, typically, there's dimensions on the one that doesn't have the overlay on it. 6th Street is showing about 31 feet for in between the parallel parking, or not parallel, perpendicular parking. Typically, if you have that sort of parking, you have 24 feet, but we can always change the arrangement of the parking, go angled parking, and then you can squeeze it up even more, go one way, even narrower, so everything keeps bringing the edge of the park down.
Yeah, I wonder if, going a one-way street, which would be, let's see, coming off 5th Street onto, what's it called now, Eagle Drive, or, so going south on Eagle Drive and then coming down 6th Street, if that was all a one-way street?
I think,
Just to try.
yeah, going to what the mayor's saying, I think we could make it one way, because there's an access way here on the southern part. This would just have to be two-way through here, but once you get to here, you could easily go one way out and then, or it could be one way, if you come up here, you have to turn left.
Oh, you're talking about using the entrance at Bravo Field there?
Yeah, because those parking lots kind of join there on the east side.
Mr. Hall, what do you think of, when we start talking about softball games and football games and...
I think the biggest impact you're going to have are the football games, because that parking lot is completely filled, plus they're using all the parking spaces on Eagle Drive as well, on both sides, the south side of the park and the north side of the park, right there. I mean, that fills completely up, so I would recommend keeping that road the way it is, wide the way it is, because you have a lot of special events there that set up when the kids do their floats. That's where they design their floats and put them together, and there's a lot of things that we use that for down there, the wide street.
It's the only opportunity we get to do it, so. Yeah, if we were to keep this layout right here, and then once you demo that out, you could put the splash pad right there, would come at the end.
And regarding the Girl Scout building, I'm sure if the city worked with them on developing, switching out some property or something at one of the parks, they might be able to do what they do at the Girl Scout building. They camp out there. They do a lot of things. They have a little kitchen in there. But that building is built in 1940, so it's really old. It's not in the very best of shape. So they might be able to think about moving or something like that.
Yeah, and obviously we need their input on anything like this, but, the building, as you say, it's been there for a very long time, but if we look at doing things, it just happens to be kind of right there in the middle of that open space.
Is the multi-purpose building not available to them at the same amount of time that they use their own building, I wonder?
Yeah, I'm just not sure, do they have regular times that they use it, or is it irregular times that they use the building? I believe, too, they even, I don't believe they rent it out, but they have special occasions there, whether they're birthday parties for the troop or...
Yeah, I've seen them with camping, where they camp out over the weekends. They bring the girls, they teach them how to camp out in the park right there. They do, let the Jamboree Committee use it for storage for the day, a couple days before the event, so we can stage out of there, for that park. But I still think that if we made some either land available or, and on the multi-use building, we rent that out quite a bit. I mean, it's not uncommon to go 7 days a week with birthday parties, weddings, and a lot of activity in there. And we'd like to keep that revenue source going for the Parks and Rec Department. That's a pretty good moneymaker for us. So I'd hate to, promise the Girl Scouts that they could use it and then.
Right, we don't want to do anything that would restrict their activities or put, some parameters on what they have available to them, but that still leaves us with the question of what to do.
On that note, when we're discussing, the multi-purpose building that we have there and it has a kitchen and stuff like that, I still notice, we have a kitchen in this, we have a multi-purpose room in this plan. What, do those serve a purpose beyond what, we already have there? Is that there's such great demand that what does this kitchen provide that the kitchen doesn't necessarily provide in the multi-purpose room?
Well, as I said before, we rent that building out, so there's a lot of activity in that building. And then there's a distance between the multi-use building and where that facility would be. And so you would have to, the staff would have to go out if it's not rented, and so they wouldn't have complete access to it because they'd have to work around how many times we reserve it. And there's a distance between that place. If it was connected, I could say yes, we could get rid of the kitchen in the facility, but when I say kitchen, it's probably an area with a microwave, and it wouldn't be a regular kitchen like we have in the multi-use.
I guess
building.
that's what my question was, because I also do see like a staff break room, but I don't know. I'll be honest, I don't know how these rooms are utilized individually. If that's not appropriate in the lifeguard slash staff break room, to have kind of combining those elements of having the kitchen or the microwave and stuff like that available. I see a lot of these things, and it's not that I don't doubt the necessity for the staff's needs and for everything, but I wonder where some space can be saved and
you could probably combine those two and put right now you have a microwave in the lifeguard room, and if there's a refrigerator with water in the lifeguard room, that could all be combined into that. So if you want to save some, that would be the place to save it.
Because I just think if we are talking, because space is obviously an issue, I do see, I'm not sure exactly how to do it on the fly just yet, but yeah, seeing this kitchen right here with the break room, and then, storage, it seems like this exact layout takes up a lot of room, and that it might be able to put things together to make it, more accommodating even, and maybe making it more efficient use of the space. So
I wouldn't get rid of the storage, because storage is one of the things that we really lack down at the swimming pool. But the combination of combining the two of the kitchen, I call it kitchen, the microwave area, and the break room would be acceptable.
Right, and I just to clarify, I wouldn't mean to eliminate storage, but making sure that all of these things are in close, in close quarters and stuff like that, because, everything does seem a little bit disparate, and like I said, I'm not going to pretend that I know, where you guys need the storage so that it's easily accessible versus, for what you need it for, but just as an example for how different things can be better, how the space can best be utilized so that we're not expanding overly, when we have the kitchen over here and then a break room over here and then storage down here. But if those things are all commonly used together, those things, and whether the storage is not something that's really utilized for something else, but those types of things can be kind of brought together, and not necessarily like we'll just eliminate those things and squeeze them all into one space, but kind of slightly expand the space and kind of, like I said, generally use the space better. Yeah.
May I ask a question? If the Girl Scout house were not an issue, would that solve some problems for accessibility and where you would really like to use space?
As the mayor was saying, when we're moving the pool further into the park, it's making a further walk. So if we were able to shift things down here closer to the parking area. I think that would help.
I mean, it seems to me like on your expertise, if that is something that we certainly should ask those people and not work around a 60-year-old building or however old it is, you know, they may be very happy or agreeable to have some other option. If it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, I definitely, whether that's the position the location we want or not, I think it'd still be advantageous to approach them.
Just for the looks of everything,
At,
right?
at the very beginning, we were looking at the different concepts. You know, at the SNH did like 4 different concepts utilizing the pool at 4 different sections of the park. And one of the sections was taking the Girl Scout building. Well, I got a call from the Girl Scouts. They had directors saying, we'd like to be involved in this decision. And I told them that once we decide, you know, where we're going to put it and the design concept, that they would be involved in that decision. So I've already talked to him.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we don't want to make assumptions. You know, a promise like that was made a long time ago. I wouldn't want to see any action taken where we couldn't give them at least the same opportunities that they have now with that building. You know, where would that be? Would it be there at ABC Park? Would it be at Veterans Park? Would it be at ABC Park? You know, but that adds cost. You know, a building like that, I don't know, 1,000 square feet maybe for a building like that. You know, we can't just say, well, you know, we'll go ahead and do that and then figure out something for them later. No, we'd have to have a solution up front before taking any action with regard to that, so that they don't lose any of the capabilities that they have right now. But again, it just happens to be in a spot that makes things very difficult.
Out of curiosity, I haven't been in the Girl Scout building in probably 20 plus years. Is it at least in condition enough that it could be incorporated into the design? Whether it's being that it is an old building that does have some history, is that a potential that we could potentially incorporate that into some of the design? Whether it becomes the new I noticed that the office space is right next to it. Could that be refurbished or made into an existing or usable area by any chance? I mean, do we have any idea about the condition?
Well, I was in it last 4th of July, well, not the last the 4th of July before, and it's in pretty rough shape. I mean, they really don't have enough money to keep it up like they'd like to. The door was messed up, and so they finally replaced the door, but there's a roof issue, there's air conditioning issues, there's a lot of issues because it's old.
Yeah, and I guess, just if we are spending, so much money, I wonder, it's not that I'm trying to pinch pennies here or whatever, but, money will be being put to build an entirely new structure, an entirely new thing. So anytime we can incorporate, if those costs to preserve things are such that it makes it more financially sound to preserve and bring it up to the condition that it needs to be in, I just would hope that we at least look at that. It's always easy to tear down and build up anew, but sometimes, you can incorporate these things into the design so that we're already putting the money into making sure that we have a state-of-the-art facility. It doesn't mean that you can't bring a building like this up to that condition. I don't know. I'm not going to pretend that I know that that's possible with this building, but that's why I'm just posing the question here while we're talking about this, and obviously being the assumption that I think everybody here seems to be in agreement that this is all considering an agreement with the Girl Scouts and that we have found a reasonable accommodations for them elsewhere. So I'm just trying to share some thoughts. I knew this was going to be an interesting meeting coming into this, so I'm just trying to help if we can figure out how to best utilize the space, which I guess is what we're really here to do. So.
And I would bet if that building was built in the 40s, it was probably masons that worked on the dam, so the roof and some doors and things like that might not be in good shape. But I'll bet you that masonry is in pretty good shape. And again, James, I think you're right. It's a fairly simple building as far as design goes, and could it be incorporated, or, is it worth incorporating it? But absolutely, when Boulder City makes promises like that, we can't go back on them. I mean, we have to find some accommodation that would give them at least what they have now, so. But again, it's just, if we can move the whole system south, I think it solves a lot of the problems with the keeping the existing facility open and leaving that lower left-hand corner available, because again, I agree, 4th of July, electric light parade, all of that corner is very popular with folks.
Keegan, on that top layout up there, what are the two buildings just south of the pool there? There's two, these two.
You got the mechanical room and the pool storage.
So you could really move those if you wanted to leave it open right there, and it would clear away from that Girl Scout building. That way, if we didn't want to make it an issue with the Girl Scouts, you could pretty much leave it alone.
Yeah, both of those buildings would be a good idea to have right adjacent to the pool, but they don't have to be on the south side.
Right, if you move the mechanical room to the north end of the park, it would still be able to filter the water in the programming, 4-lane programming pool and the main pool up there. The mechanical room doesn't have to be, connected to where the offices are.
Okay. And then where the volleyball courts, or what do you call them, racquetball courts in there? Yeah, if you just pull that off for a second. So you could that's the pool, so you could technically build that office space and new pool while retaining the pool, kind of like that layout there.
Yep.
So you could do the racquetball court dead last, like do all that at one time to keep the cost down.
Yep.
And then not worry about that Girl Scout building, because I think that's just going to be a headache, and it's an argument we all don't want to deal with. I sure as hell don't. And I know people use it for funerals and wakes and miscellaneous things. There's horseshoe pits over there, horseshoe tournaments. I know, Dan Lee Memorial tournaments down there.
That's the multi-purpose building, not the that has.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's the one closest to the school right there.
Well, that's one I was thinking of. Okay, I take it back.
Yeah, the Girl Scout building is the little L-shaped building there.
Right.
Yeah.
We may be surprised that an opportunity that gives them either some advances that they can use technologically. I don't know how many Girl Scouts are in Boulder City, but, they may welcome a new opportunity where they're not tied to something that is hard for them to maintain or whatever.
All right, I take back what I said. I agree.
Well, I don't know, but sometimes
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think
when
there's
something new is offered,
Yeah.
it's welcome.
Yeah, there's no harm in starting a conversation with them.
Well, I think too, when we look at that, I know when I went and talked to the people about the Murtha pool, you've got almost 3,000 square feet for a mechanical room, pool equipment, electrical, janitorial. The indications that they gave me was they would normally not need anywhere near that amount of space for the pump and all of that type of equipment. That's a very large room to be doing that for that particular purpose. And then we've got, 1,300 square feet for the lounge, and then a multi-purpose room, an open office, a 700 square foot open office. There's a lot of room in there that maybe things could be changed, reconfigured.
Is there any consideration, so for instance, the mechanical room, what type of considerations do we have to have with the placement to make sure that these things are near, you know what I'm saying? Like what do we need to make sure that we absolutely keep together and that we don't, we don't have, so we're not having something clear across the thing that really needs to be somewhere here. So like, what types of things do we need to know regarding that?
Well, in the mechanical room, you have to filter the water, and normally you have 2 high-rate sand filters and depending on the 4-lane and the regular pool. The regular pool would have 2, and then probably 1 for the 4-lane would be a separate filtration system. These are high-rate sand filters. The water goes through, is filtered, and pushed back out to the pool. You have your chlorination system in there. You also have, you can put an ultraviolet light system like most pools are doing right now, a Cal Hypo chlorination system in there. You probably have about probably three pumps on the main pool, because if one goes down, you still have to have the capacity, and then probably 1 on the 4-lane. And then if you do the kiddie pool on the north end of the park, you'd probably have to have another one. So that's probably a total of 5 pumps. 1 would be a backup pump, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. And so the pumps take an area. Then you have to have your so you have your chlorination, your filtration system is your main function of the mechanical room. Then you have to have your, depending on how they do the air conditioning systems for the building, they normally put that in there as well. There's a lot. And then storage area, you have your chemical, you have to have a separate chemical room as per the health department. If we go with the Cal Hypo, a liquid chlorine, we have a big, 500-gallon drum that they fill up, and that's what we use instead of gas chlorine. So you have to have that area. And that's why the mechanical rooms now are so much bigger than when they were designed, 20, 30 years ago.
Right, and I guess my question is more, because right now the pools are separate, as far as the pieces go, are separate from the mechanical room, because theoretically I could go up there and I could move, one piece all the way over here, and suddenly the mechanical room's on the completely other corner, opposite corner of where the pool is. What I'm saying is we want to have that mechanical room right next to the pool,
yes,
correct?
We do. Yeah. Yes,
and so I guess that's what my question was what types of, is making sure we know exactly, like, these types of rooms or spaces need to be next to each other.
Yeah.
So that
the mechanical room should be close to both pools.
Right.
3 pools.
Yeah. And I assumed as much, but I'm just curious if there's other factors that I'm not thinking of that we need to make sure that these things are placed, appropriately, so that we're not up here, ooh, this could go here, this could go here. What if we did this? What if we did that? And what we've really done is we've put everything in different areas that really need to be close. I'm just trying to put in my head rapidly.
I think you hit it right on the head. The mechanical room needs to be close to the pools. The main part of the buildings, you're going to have your AC system. So depending on how many systems you have, you can have 1 separate system on each of the buildings, depending on how it's designed. They do 1 or a multiple. Multiple is better, because if the one big one goes out, you lose your AC. If 1 little one goes out, you still have 1 or 2 to at least stay open and be halfway comfortable. So that has to be, worked in as well.
The only other thing I'm seeing that needs to be co-located is the locker room and the lifeguard break room. You want the lifeguard break room, at least all the pools I've been in, it's with a window right there so they can still see out to the pool. And then the locker rooms, you want them nearby. It doesn't have to be exactly right there, but between the mechanical and the storage. And
co-located, that was the word I was looking for.
And one thing too to consider, if we build a enclosure over the main pool and the 4-lane programming pool, you're going to have a room for the AC systems and all, and you want a real good AC system to get all the moisture out of that enclosure over the pools. And that's one of the biggest problems that people find, is they don't put enough AC capacity to get the moisture out, and they regret doing that. So you really have to, put something in. That takes, that takes area to put it in. So that should be close to where the pools are too, because that's where the enclosure is going to be.
And those type of units can be put on the roofs as well. I mean, we don't want to forget that there's space on the roof.
That's true, yeah.
And how many pumps do we have right now for the 3 pools?
Well, right now we have 2 pumps for the 3 pools. When 1 pump goes out, I have to close down the diving and the wading pool, because only 1 pump can do the main pool. So 2 pumps can do 3 pools. However, if you look at the designs from Henderson and all the way they're designing pools right now, they have 1 backup pump that they can put in operation. They won't have to take out the broken pump and replace it. They just switch the valves, and you have 2 pumps at all times with 1 backup. The reason I added 5 is there one pump for the waiting, the 4-lane programming pool, because you want that as a separate, you're gonna have a higher temperature, you're gonna have, you know, your heaters. You have to have 3 separate heaters too, and that's another thing I forgot, is you have 3 separate heaters that control the 3 different pools. So each pool has to be separate in everything, and that's why the mechanical room is increased.
What we have here in the packet, though, this is actually more than the basics that we had already set, right? This is actually the maximum rather than the parameters we had set previously.
Are you talking about the list on page 23?
Yes.
Yeah, this was just a list of the most, as it said at the top, the most frequently mentioned items. I know we had talked about removing some stuff and adding other stuff. This is...
Well, like what we're looking at here right now includes the racquetball courts and the fitness center, and that was not in what we had previously discussed as being the necessities
Correct.
of doing this. So I think we need to keep that in mind as well, that this is using up a whole bunch more space than what we've actually talked about, but what we talked about is making sure whatever we do go with, future utilization would allow for those to be built at some point, but that's when the old pool goes away. So I think, again, when Terry was moving things around there, you know, eventually we know the old pool structure is going to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Is the workout room, is that for the public or is just for the swimmers? Because I thought we had decided we did not want to be in competition with the businesses in town. So that's just a question.
If I recall correctly, and it's been a while, yeah, we had talked about not worrying about the fitness center at this time.
It's not on this list. If I might have it's not on the list of the fitness center. So I think very early on, we decided that we weren't going to put that in there.
I just heard it from Kiernan, from the mayor. I didn't see it on the list either.
Yep. It's on the diagram. This bottom view here was the final conceptual plan. So I just started with that. I got markers up here that I was going to cross stuff off and put a check mark by stuff that we really like, along with the list that was in the packet.
But again, the point I'm trying to make is right now we're trying to fit essentially 2 things on here: the possible build out of this over some period of time and the old pool structure, but we know the old pool structure will go away.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is we're reserving more land than will actually ever be used on this.
Yeah, if we were to go with kind of something similar to the layout we have here, maybe moving the mechanical up and the pool down, it's quite possible that we could tie on to the existing racquetball. There's some unknowns in that just because we don't know what we're going to get into when you start opening up walls. But you could keep the racquetball, and then you have whatever portions of this office, multi-purpose, whatever we want to keep of that, and then in the future, once we get the pool built, removing the pool in the office.
Keegan, right there where you're just held the pool and office, that's where you could do that. Mom's and dad's layout area. It'd be real cheap, and it would fill that in, and
Yep.
we'd go down there and suntan and all, and let everybody have fun.
Yep.
You have to bring your own chaise lounge with you.
Yeah.
But it would be cheap, and it'd be easy, and it would look beautiful.
Yep.
It'd look fun.
Yeah,
Inviting.
this could all be grass area in the future.
Run a fence right across there, and boom.
Yep.
Lay your beach shell out. It'd be neat.
With this right now, how it is, would that be able, do you think, to more or less be essentially one phase, this kind of thing? Obviously, I don't think the splash pad is necessarily in there, and I know we're kind of thinking about future what can be there, but with just the pool and this office area, how it is right there, could that more or less be in one phase so we're not really phasing it out and we can maybe save some money that way?
Yeah, it would be the first phase I was talking about, where we construct the new pool and then demo the old pool, just so we're open year round. But yeah, they could construct the new pool and start doing the office and whatever we want down here at the same time, and then in the future, at the end of the contract. It's not really phasing. It'd be we'd bring one contract to council for approval, and it'd be to do all that, but we'd have them certain steps what order they have to do it in.
Right, and then just looking, I personally, this is just my personal preference. I did like it when we did have this other thing where we basically just took what we have right here and rotated it so that we would be going over, basically like that. I know that might be a little costly, but having to do it in those phases. But that's just my personal preference. But I think it would then keep with the a little bit more closer to the original layout. Yeah. I do know there is some concern about accessibility, but I think with that parking lane there, that we might be able to, could that potentially be used to help create access from that point?
Are you talking about
above where the tennis courts are?
Oh.
Is that something that's potentially if we're talking about access so that people aren't having to walk clear across the park or anything so that people have easier access, is that potential?
Well, you'd have to put it right where the offices are, because you have to have a staff member there to check people in and make sure they're, they pay and that type of thing. So the office needs to be where you're going to have people walk in.
The entrance. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, that little lane there that comes in by the tennis courts, I mean, yeah, it's very limited, and
it'd be very congested.
Yeah. I just a thought through my head when talking about accessibility. I want to make sure that we provide for that much.
Are we gonna take a picture of any of these layouts to show the architect, or however that works?
Yep, definitely.
Groovy.
It'll give me a couple starting points, and then we can always, if the committee's still here, we'll share those, and it just helps narrow down how they're starting. It's really expensive when you ask them to start coming up with their 5 different ideas.
Well, and they don't know what the 4th of July is all about either, so,
No. We'll have to have them come out.
When we say that lower left-hand corner needs to be left open, they're not going to get that, but...
No.
Well, I don't know. Do we confuse you, or do we?
No, I think this is helpful.
I've got a question. Is this, this is beautiful and it looks like everything that everybody wants. Is this very similar to what we asked the first time we went out for a design? And because I'm thinking if we do this, it sounds to me right now, and the questions that Kieran's asking about square footage and the sizes and all that it's going to come in as expensive as the first thing we got.
Yeah, this bottom view here is exactly, it was what they called the community preferred option. That was 33 million plus construction management, everything on top of that, and that's what brought it up real close to that 40 million. From all of our discussions and us removing bits and pieces, maybe consolidating different portions of it, that's only going to bring the price down.
Yeah. So when you go out to ask for the design and cost, it's going to be a little bit smaller than what we originally asked for?
Yeah, if we're not looking at doing the racquetball fitness center area right now, and then we also say, oh, we don't need a lounge that big, and we're not sure we want to do the kiddie area right now. We need less office space.
Okay, so we'll ask to do this in phases.
Phases for the design, is that what you mean?
No, for the racquetball courts and all that. I mean, they can give us a price for just the pool and then give us a price for the racquetball courts and the office space and all that other things that we need.
They'd be able to get us an estimate. If we wanted to do the office, kitchen, multi-use in the pool, in the mechanical room, if that's all we wanted to construct right now, they could just start the design on that, but they could also give us a rough estimate on, okay, 5 years down the road, we want to add the kiddie area, And 10 years, we want to add the fitness center and racquetball. They could
Okay.
give us an estimate for those, but once they start design, they can give us a lot more firm
Right, so-
numbers.
Okay, so it's not doing all of it at one time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else have any comments or suggestions?
I just want to know if we, based on Mr. Briel's comments, what would we be asking the public to approve?
That's a good question. And again, I think, this is a difficult situation to do. I mean, we're not pool builders, but, by including the elements that we've decided, or at least have discussed not including, I'm not sure we're getting to where we need to be if we keep these elements in here. We do need to, I believe, we need to do this in a way where, 10 years from now, if it's a decision to do a weight room or a multi-purpose room or something like that, that the design that we do decide on doesn't say, well, we can't do that because they didn't think ahead 10 years ago. So, we need to have this stuff in here, but I think the visuals are not helping us because we know the old pool structure is going to go away, which opens up more land, and we've got elements in here that we've decided make the project too expensive. So that's not helpful, I understand that.
No, I think, I don't believe we have the CAD version of this, but I think we could come up with something internally, removing the items that we've talked about, shifting around like we have talked about, a couple different ways we had talked about it. And I don't know how, I'm not very good with Photoshop, but I'm sure somebody can figure out how to at least blur out the existing stuff so we can see what the future pool would look like once everything's been removed. We might have to get creative on how we're looking at it because it's just an aerial image and it'd be tough to remove the existing stuff, but hopefully somebody's a lot better at Photoshop than I am.
Well, and again, I think we need to look at that list on page 23 of the packet that identifies which elements we have discussed including, and somehow separate out these other things that we're not looking at right now so that we do get a better idea of what we are, can it be built where we want it to be built?
Just a comment, we don't have page numbers on our packets, I don't. Yeah, I see, but I don't know the page number you refer to.
It's the one after the picture.
No page.
We're looking at the list.
So,
Well, I would say, I guess at this point, I mean, we have to do something with this item. It does appear that there's enough room. We don't know exactly how it would be laid out, but it appears there's enough room to do all of the elements, not right now, but at some point in the future. The space exists to do it.
I think that's correct. That's a correct statement.
And still, not get into areas of the park that we want to leave open.
I think when you looked, I think S&H did a comparison in doing the new facility, comparing it with the green space that we have existing right now. After the new facility was put in there, it would be the same green space that we have for Broadbent Park. And that's what we wanted. We didn't want to, cut down the green space and put facilities in the beautiful park down there.
Well, and again, if we do use the south end of the park, that is going to be disruptive to the Jamboree activities. That's where all the booths are, and all of that happens down in that area of the park.
That's correct. However, when we take out and, demo the other where the pool is and put that into grass, that opens up other areas that we can use too. So.
But there will be at least one, maybe two, maybe three Jamborees in between, so.
Very true. But, if you look at it right now, the activities, other than the events with the class reunions, which take that corner of 5th Street and 6th Street right there, or Eagle Drive, that's normally really good, but we have lost some vendors in the south end of the park. The majority of activity now is in the north end of the park. That's where the stage is, the band is, the fun and games, the coin toss. We do have some activities at the lower end of the park, but it seems to be kind of switching as the years progress.
Mr. Anderson?
I sincerely apologize.
That's okay.
For being so late, it's a family emergency, but
No problem.
Go to the mic, please.
I have a few things I shot to Keegan back in March, trying to representate this building more on the south side of the plot. I've found a way to kind of reorganize it so it could go on that corner, and a pretty neat design that is more, like historical Boulder City. And so it is still in crude form because I actually tucked them away so good I could not find them for the last 7 months. But
Can we bring them up here and
so kind of going back to
Turn the mic on.
I get everything? Okay.
Thank you. Go.
So kind of going back to bringing it to the south side and actually using some of the facilities that are there right now took similar to this, what Keegan had, and cut and pasted it and kind of made the entrance down here towards the corner. It's, we could center it off this. What it does creates the lobby right here. Coming in, I kind of went off the original list that we made of the entities we needed. And I believe everything that's on the new list is on there also. The locker rooms, family locker room. What it would be is the racquetball courts would stay, and you could have one of the racquetball courts as the pool storage, one as a fitness center, and two of them as a racquetball court, and just keep this main building over here, the entrance we have now. And that could be, there's at least one bathroom over there, could be two bathrooms, and then that could be for the employees where they could sit and for their break room. Having the pool right here, there could be some kind of decorative fence that would come along here and even the back side so that you can have access to these, with shade structures that were solar, or you can pin solar basically anywhere with the mechanical room right there. And so it wouldn't disturb anything in the park. And when you demoed the rest of this, basically would keep a little courtyard here in the middle. It does jam it against that side, and once again, these are crude drawings. I did them with my guy, and then we just kind of stopped. But I don't know if you could see this. The corner of the building would be similar to the hotel as it goes through, and then as it goes back, it kind of goes to where the racquetball court is, and since that would be existing, you could actually clad something to the side of that to emulate the structure here, like when you drive into Boulder City. So this would kind of be the front. And then the side of the racquetball court could look something like this. It could look exactly like that. Going back, it could be carved out of anything. And then where the existing office is right here, we'd actually make it can look like, say, the theater. And so some of these drawings represent it. Like I say, everything is way more crude than I would like it to be. Just taking everything together, and even the racquetball court, if we didn't want to do something like the other clad, we could do the whole movie theater thing where it's popped out and goes to the side. And then for the pool, I didn't get to visit any pools because basically everything was shut down after we got done, but it's a pretty basic drawing of a pool, and I saw a lot of these. It's the same kind of thing where it's, the glass on the inside. Like I say, you can put solar panels on the outside. You can put whatever you would like on there. And hoping that that is almost a drawing that people have already, or be able to use their, what they've already started in the drawings. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what it was. Again, I apologize for being so late, my beautiful drawings, but just another idea to think about.
Chad, I have a question. Down on the corner then, is that where the entrance where they would pay, and that's
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
It can be down here on the corner. And let me say, right now, we drew it would have a little pathway going down both of the sides with a little fence, so that if you parked here, you would know that, okay, that's not the entrance anymore. A little sidewalk that goes down, and then a little courtyard in the front. We've got it pictures as a sphere with water coming out of it, but that was the very first thing. I mean, we could have like a Hoover Dam that's uptown, something like that, with water below it, or anything, or just good planting.
So you're trying to do the Art Deco look for the dam and stuff in the hotel. Is that what you're trying to go for here?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and using some kind of the existing building, and it would almost be the historical part in the front, and modern in the back with the pool. If you left it with the glass and all the high tech, or I've seen these where you don't have to have the glass. You could put some kind of covering over the outside so it doesn't look modern, and it can be incorporated into the historical part. I think the big thing that I did see when I went to a couple pools, at least I saw the outside, and they all kind of look the same. It's block walls, with the name of whatever town it was or division posted on the outside of it. Something a little different.
That area that you have in the lower right-hand or left-hand corner there, that incorporates the offices and the other things that we've talked about?
Yeah.
The lobby,
There's the big lounge area right here, and then there's an open office right behind it. And most of them, I was able to keep the same dimensions as original. Roger, I'm sorry, your office got a little smaller. And the lifeguard stand a little smaller, or it could be extended. And then again, some of the pool storage and fitness center is incorporated into the two racquetball courts that are existing and for the employee break room would be back basically where the office is now.
And then the existing pool structure still, when the new facility is built, the existing structure goes away. That's
Correct. Everything would go around it. There would just need to be, and it's not on here, but basically there'd be a wheelchair ramp up here and some type of way to get into behind the racquetball courts. It may have to be a little hallway or something, but that can all be kind of on the CAD drawings. And then when this is complete, then from here, basically this is the buildings, everything else can be taken out.
If it needed to have more space, if it's worked out with the Girl Scouts, then there would be room to extend the building and that. You weren't here when we were discussing perhaps making an agreement with the Girl Scouts about their building, but that comes really close to it, right?
That's probably, I don't know, 15 feet
Okay.
from the outside. You know, we kind of left this setback at 20 feet. I mean, it could be, this actually needs to be moved in, I think, to get to where the corner is, but 15, 20 feet maybe to the Girl Scout.
Thank you.
Would be max.
I do think it's nice in the sense that it does incorporate, you weren't here for the conversation, but when we were taught, we did have a conversation about how we can incorporate some of the existing facilities already. And I think that is part of where, because it's kind of two different exercises. One, in making sure we have enough space for everything for future, as we look forward into the future, but also what does it need to look like now? And so I think this definitely helps give a little bit better of a visual on what that might look like as well. So I appreciate the work. Thank you.
Yeah, it almost creates a big area back here, and this is where play pool, everybody could go later on, and you could have windows from this office. I mean, you would have access at multiple points to get to it.
the configuration that you have there. Can you point out where you would have the lifeguard room?
It's right here. It's right here on this corner. And so it's, I think it was almost, I think it's about 237 square feet or something like that. And if it needed to be extended, I guess it could be longer, or it could even be category right here in the corner, kind of an L-shaped.
Well,
office.
I just know that's one of the things, Cherie, that has been talked about, that, you know, you need communications with them and they need a visual out to the pool so that they can keep an eye on things. And that, you know, I just recall that as being one of the critical things that we had talked about before.
Yep, more of a glass box, I guess.
Anyone else?
Well, I don't know about architects and design and stuff, but I like the fact that it's more compact, what I'm seeing here. It's not so spread out, and then you have that whole green area where the old pool would be to do different things with, whatever, right? When they just, whatever they can, demolish the old pool and so forth. And then it looks like it's closer to 6th Street here too in terms of access. And so there seems to be some advantages, and I like the fact that it's more compact and maybe more cost efficient. Thank you.
Welcome.
Well, again, I think, you know, the difference also is that you've only included the things that we had determined were a necessity right now, and the things like a larger weight room or those types of things would be future and might then be occupy the existing pool area later on.
Correct, and like a small fitness center, similar to what they already have. I guess I kind of listed it right there as that back racquetball area
Right.
for now until expansion was done. But yeah, it definitely gives a lot more park on the north side.
Any other questions or comments?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the work on that. And Mr. Cohen, this is not exactly on topic, but Mr. Cohen, you had been in touch with someone who might be able to come and take a look at the pool and do so for free and give an opinion.
Okay, there we go. Yes, I contacted PoolServe. They handle all of the MGM properties, and they are willing to come out, no charge, and let us know the cost between fixing the pool and installing a new pool. Not for the rest of the facilities, but just what the pool and everything that pertains to the pool's maintenance would cost. And then that way we can see if what we're being recommended is correct or if it is high or low on what they would say. And I have all the information that I can give to Keegan so that he can reach out to them.
And again, especially when it's free, and I appreciate you making that contact. Too many cooks might spoil the soup, but I think, if we can get opinions from folks that do this, and especially on the large scale, the MGM hotels would be helpful. So I appreciate you getting that information.
Okay.
Anything else on this item then regarding design features and elements?
Is someone going to talk to the Girl Scouts?
I think they need to be approached, and they need to be aware that we're not contemplating leaving them nowhere. And what might they want, or would they consider a benefit for them if they were located elsewhere?
If you look at both of these designs, though, the Girl Scout building is still in place.
It is preserved, yes.
Yeah, so I would say until we make a decision on we're affecting them greatly, I think it would be premature to maybe and that's what I told them. I said, nothing's been decided yet. We're trying to still figure out, the actual how we're going to place the facility in the park. But once we decide, and if it impacts your building or whatever, that we would get back to them. So.
And again, right now, it does appear that we, if we look at the design that Mr. Anderson did, we saved virtually everything there. If we look at the upper one that we had been looking at, we do lose a tennis court, but the other structures in the park remain.
Yeah, all except, there's a bathroom in between the tennis courts and the pool that's was built in the 1960s that's fallen apart. We'd probably knock that down.
And again, I think what we had talked about is with the new pool facility that there would be restrooms available to replace that. Okay, any other questions or comments?
How about if we save $2 million or so on no gym and no racquetball court, maybe we ought to add a sauna.
Getting into the horse trading now?
Let's make this thing comfy.
All right, we will then move on to item number 3, discussion and possible recommendation regarding the continuation of the Municipal Ad Hoc Pool Committee. What has happened here is, of course, we lost many months because of the pandemic, and the idea was that this committee would expire by the end of the year after having made its recommendations to the City Council. So we're at that point. I think the committee needs to stay together, I would say at least until March of next year. That would give us roughly another 5 or 6 meetings. Anyone have any other thoughts on that?
I think you're right. I think it's been about 6 months that the committee hasn't been meeting, so I just wanted to just make up for that those 6 months, 5 or 6 months that we weren't able to meet because of the virus restrictions. So I think that might be helpful to get somewhere so we have something to give to the public, so we can maybe, for those of us who are passionate about it, we want to make sure, and we'd like to work on it more. I think there are a lot of good ideas in this group, and I'd like to see it continue for at least, extended to make up for the time lost.
Right. Anyone else?
I would agree that I certainly think the committees, there's still work to be done, and I think it's obvious, we're kind of getting back to we lost a lot of momentum there, and, the last meeting and then this meeting, we're kind of getting back up to pace and up to speed with where we were. And so I think once we hit that stride again, I think it will help to start streamline some of these efforts so that we do come to a reasonable recommendation so that council can make some decisions with a lot of effort that has been put into it so that we can put something forward for the community.
Well, I guess the recommendation then would be to extend it through, was March 30 or 31 days? I guess it's, okay, do the knuckle thing, figure it out. Okay, I think it's 31. So I would propose then that we recommend to the city council that the resolution be amended to extend the end date of the committee to March 31st of 2021. Do we have everyone in agreement on that?
If that's a motion, I'd second it.
Okay, all those in favor then?
Aye.
And anyone opposed? All right. Item number 4 then, discussion and possible recommendation regarding the June 2021 ballot questions relating to financing a new aquatic facility. We do have the finance director here. Ms. Pelletier, did you want to give us a quick recap of what those questions were? I know you do have it in the packet.
Good afternoon. On page 7 of the pool brochure are the 3 ballot questions. So,
I think in the packet, it's the second to the last page of the packet lists the 3 there. We've got the first one would be to transfer $1 million to a pool reserve.
the first one is for $7 million from the Capital Improvement Fund for the purpose of funding an aquatic center. That's the question. And those questions were reviewed by the legal department, and they said those questions are still properly worded.
Okay, the way they're listed in the packet, it says, shall the city of Boulder City expend funds from the Capital Improvement Fund in an annual transfer of $1 million? So
that's the second question.
Yeah, I'm just going by what's in our packet. So that, do we have an end date on that, 2029? So the transfer would occur. I see a problem by doing it the way that's worded, that if this project weren't to start for 2 years, do we need to change that from 2029 to say over a 9-year period of time, or?
No, because it said 2029 or at such time the construction of the aquatic center is completed, whichever comes first. So I guess it could be extended to later too. I mean, that's...
Well, that kind of leaves an open-ended transfer each year out of the Capital Improvement Fund.
Well, we don't have to do it, but it would allow us to do that.
Right. Any questions or comments about these? I know, we had reviewed these before. Mrs. Pelletier had given the presentation on that. The idea behind this is that there would not be a tax rate increase for the residents of Boulder City. But of course, it does mean that we deplete the capital improvement fund by $1 million each year. We utilize virtually all of the money that may or may not come from the sale of land around Boulder Creek. And there would be a bond issue for $7 million.
Or a private placement. It would all depend. I mean, there's the steps in the plan. There's like 5 mile markers, starting with the donation that we received that's being held for the city for the pool. And depending on whether all those steps could be followed, that would determine how much, I hate these masks. It would determine how much money we would need after when we get to the point where we don't see any other revenue sources, whatever that balance would be, but I think we estimated it would be 10 million or less, then that could be a private placement, which would be a lot less expensive than a bond issue.
And that would be repaid from, I believe it was ending fund balance?
No, that would have been repaid using proceeds from the voter approved. I believe that's part of the, one of the questions.
But again, how were we repaying that $7 million?
Through continued transfers of money from the voter approved. I think that would be determined later on when we do the following. There's one more ballot question after these 3 that would occur when we know better how much money we need and how we would arrange to pay for that. But there would still be money in the voter approved fund to ask the voters to approve using some of that funding for that.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is what pot of money does that come from? Because we're not asking the voters for a rate increase, a tax increase.
No, it's from the lease revenues.
Solar lease.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that fund is continuously increasing when we get the solar lease revenues. So 20% of the revenues goes into that fund. So that fund is growing. And that's what we're suggesting. Right now, the balance in that fund today is 9.8 million. And there's very small amounts coming out each year, and one of them is set to sunset next year, so there'll be less money coming out of that fund, with still money going into there. So every time there's a new solar lease each year, we get money for the lease, and we put a portion in there. So that would be the revenue source.
And we are expecting at least 2 projects in the foreseeable future that would start bringing in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
I may be missing this, but your answer is so good about the solar money. Is that going to be incorporated into one of these, so that the voter would know, instead of just, and maybe it's here and I missed it, I apologize.
No, it wouldn't. I don't believe it would be in the question, because I think experience shows that the longer the question, the tougher it is to get voters to approve it. So keeping it more simple, but there could be an education campaign, not done by staff, but somebody could be doing an education campaign about that. And we have created a solar lease brochure, which we haven't really rolled it out yet, but that could explain a lot.
Well, I don't know if I agree, only because it seems like citizens are always saying, can't the solar money be used for the pool or something that they feel it needs to be used for? So it seems like if it were just, I don't know, it would make sense to me that the people would want to see that there was a source coming from, and the one that they feel good about using for.
Well, the capital improvement fund is the solar lease revenue.
Okay. So.
Well, and again, I agree with Ms. Jeffries that it's a question. People are going to look at these figures and see these millions of dollars. And if we don't have a way to clarify that what we're talking about, but
this does explain it too,
it's
though.
not in the ballot, and
no, but
that's my concern. Is just as what was said is, if people are looking at and thinking, well, what does that mean, that we can't afford firefighters, we can't afford police officers, we're building a new pool. To clarify that this is anticipated to be from the solar lease revenue.
I guess the other part of that, if the council wishes the legal department to make the questions more informative, they could do that. This was, when we created the brochure, I'm not a lawyer, and I just know that people, when they see a long ballot question, like yesterday when I voted, some of these questions were super long, and you just want to say no. So, I think the lesson for us was the shorter it is, the easier it is to understand. So that's what the brochure says. But if the council wished to have the legal department make it a very long question explaining solar lease revenues.
Well, I don't think it
they
has
could
to
do
be
that.
very long. I think just a mention of where the money's coming from is,
Yep, that could be done.
How about just after capital improvement fund, parentheses, solar money, solar lease money,
Yep,
boom, and that's it.
I'm sure the legal department could.
Yeah.
Or don't you always have agreed, yes and no, agreeing to the ballot question, is those explanations always on the ballot?
Mm-hmm.
Included in that?
well, and it all gets down to, how much do people read it, or do they?
Yep.
I guess my question kind of along those lines is, I think it's obvious we're going to need money for this pool regardless of whether or not it's to repair it or to construct a new facility. And I think most people in the community would agree with that. I think ultimately the question is how will they vote on these questions? And so my question to you would be, what happens if the voters say, we like this one, but these other two we don't, or, some mix up. Do you think these independently stand to help us get to that goal? So that should say, should one of these pass, but another one doesn't? Can these kind of stand independent of each other somewhat to help us at least get to the goal of either repairing or building a new facility?
Well, when the plan was presented back in February, you had to follow each step of the plan for it to work. And if only one part is followed, then you will definitely fall short of money unless you have some unknown source that, comes out of nowhere to fill the gap. So that was one of the conditions, and because there's several things in here, including a ordinance that we would ask that the council approve that to put aside excess revenues each year at the end of the year when we do our annual report. So there's a lot of components to it, but when we presented this, it was under the idea that you follow all the steps to get to what we believe is a doable amount of money that would help pretty much finance most of the pool without raising taxes.
No, and I think it's just important that way we are also, when we are discussing with the voters and trying, because there's a difference between obviously what the city can participate in conversations and what we as individuals, but I think it's important to note that, it is important that these three things are kind of part of the same plan to getting us there, that they're not three different options. They're not, because, people might have a difficulty in understanding that because they'll say, well, there's three different things here for the pool. I like this one or I like that one. So I think it's just something to consider because ultimately, like I said, we need to make sure that we have funding for our facility, and we need to make sure that we're clear with the community that this is all in concert together, these questions. So it's just something for us to consider because ultimately it has to pass. We need their approval. So just more comment and thought than anything, but something worth considering.
Yeah, I think the two selling points to this whole thing is not increasing property taxes and using solar lease money properly. And that's it.
And I don't think you were at the last meeting, but I did clarify that solar lease revenue has not been impacted by COVID. So we're still getting all of our solar lease payments. So that part of it, luckily at this point, is not impacted. We do not expect it to be impacted. So.
Well, again, this is an action item. Anyone else have any comments or input that they would like to make?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
One thing I checked on when we would have to have the ballot questions available. The ballot questions would need to be submitted to the city clerk's office by March of 2021 if we decide to do that. And then the ballot questions need to be submitted to the Clark County Election Department by April of 2021. So March of 2021 is the deadline to start the process.
And again, that, to get to that point, it will have had to be heard by city council and all that. So yes, it's coming quickly. What I would suggest is we go ahead and make a recommendation to the city council to review these ballot questions for funding, to also consider wording that will clarify where the funds are coming from, and have the city council, if the decision of the city council is then to make recommendations to legal staff to take another look at the wording, that can be there. But I think, we've expressed enough concern that we probably need to make sure that's clear in the question. Point well taken that if you make it too long, you're going to get a no vote. But we also want to make it clear enough that people understand we're not talking about a property tax increase that was discussed before on this. So, should I make a motion then? I move that we make a recommendation to City Council to consider these ballot questions and also to consider having a review by legal staff to update the wording clarifying the source of the funding. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, we are at our last item then, discussion and recommendations regarding future agenda items.
Road plan, I think, great. Good job.
Anything that we need to look at, I do think that with all of our discussions, Mr. Luttrell, if that's enough information and, maybe you can work with Mr. Anderson, because again, I know the visuals are very important on this, and maybe we can get something, that we can all take a look at based on what we've discussed today. So I guess that would be one, very similar to, number 2 that we had for today. And again, I think I'd mentioned earlier that the council did approve the expenditure of the funds for an RFP, or at least, I guess the RFP was done previously. Is that correct, Mr. Luttrell?
Yeah, we've already done the RFP. We're in the process of scheduling those interviews right now.
Okay. So that is moving ahead then to have the evaluation done. Any other items that we need to start working on, or?
Will we follow up with this opinion as well?
Yes,
That they have-
the information that's being offered, that Mr. Cohen was able to obtain.
Good.
I don't know if this is part of the subject, but with Luttrell talking with we're talking about possibly redoing the pool. That was what that was about, right? Maybe if we could ask him too, I don't know if this is possible, but ask him what it would cost to raise the deck up for the proper height. I don't know if that, for wasting time, but like to make the depth of the pool deeper. I don't know if that's possible. That's kind of out there. Maybe we don't have to ask, but I think it might be something. Like the pool depth, I don't know what it is now, say it's 5 feet, but if they poured concrete around the deck, lifted another foot, and made it the proper height, would that be something? I don't know. Maybe not.
It wouldn't be included in the current RFP, but that's something that we could get figured out. I'm sure Roger can expand on this, but I still see the issues with the filtration and the pumps and the heaters and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but it's definitely thinking outside the box, which we need to do.
Okay, yeah, I just threw it out there.
I think the minimum amount of that you need now is 7 feet, about 6.5 to 7 feet to allow a person on a starting block to jump in without breaking his neck. So I think that is what the standard is.
Probably be too high.
Yeah.
What is the depth right now?
Well, the depth is 3.9 all the way around, and then it goes to about 5.5 feet in the middle. So it would, 7 feet's a big deal.
I take back what I said.
But that's one of the design elements too, is sufficient for swimming, diving in. So that's one of the listing of our design elements that are so desirable.
I'll just say that I think it's a little, we're kind of in a peculiar situation here where we both want to we want to get the information back about the review on, possible repair, and then also, so that we're not putting too much effort on focusing on any one thing when we're not 100% sure on where we're going. I think, here on the committee, we all at least understand the importance of likely and the need of likely needing a new facility. So I know that's a lot of the conversation, but it does put us in a little bit of a peculiar spot that we're waiting for more information. And so, how can we be most efficient? I'm not going to say I have that answer right now, but I think that's something we need to consider in how we move forward, because even still 6 months is a long way out, but only 6 meetings is not very many meetings. So making sure that we use these to be efficient and that we're using staff's time well as well as our own time. So that's not necessarily an item for discussion, but I think in general we just need to think about that and how we move forward so that we're efficient in all of this.
And I think that's a good point. And keeping an item like number 2, the discussion and provide recommendations regarding the design features. Even having this list of design elements included each time in the packet, who knows that, somebody's going to look at that list again and go, hey, wait, we didn't include, or we need to include something. So maybe just having that list in the packet each time would help remind us all of what it is we have discussed in case there's something that we decide needs to get added to that.
In previous meetings when we were talking about the design, I mentioned one of the guys I work with who is very good with the filtration systems, and I see it's kind of back to the hypo, and I don't know if that's something that we want to pursue. I can ask him to come in sometime, or if we wanted to wait to see if we're doing a new pool or just moving forward that direction.
Again, I think, because of the open meeting law, we have to have something on our agenda that allows for those types of discussions. I certainly would be interested in hearing that. Again, I know when I spoke with the engineer for the Mirtha Pool project, he was explaining to me that there's a lot of new technology out there that has changed how they do some of these things. So I don't know that we need a separate item, but whether that could be included in the staff report, if Mr. Anderson could give you the information, and that could be included, or we can include it as a separate item.
Okay, I can ask my friend. I'm sure he would come. He was ready to before, so if I need to give you his information, or
You can do it as a separate item.
Okay, so that would be
Separate item.
Title it discussion of filtration or whatever, pump systems.
okay, I'm gonna see him tomorrow and the next day, so I'll talk to him and then confirm email that he'll be here.
All right. Any other items that we need to include? I think as far as the legal issues, the ballot question, that sort of thing, that now needs to go through city council. But as Mr. Hall had mentioned, we have to keep an eye on the calendar on that, because if we miss it, it won't be until 2022 that we have another election.
We're talking about new items for next time, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, I'm wondering, we haven't been addressing Mr. Volz's comments, and, he's inaccurate. I mean, I did get the information about the number of people that come to the pool and use it on a regular basis. His 54 is totally wrong, false, even during the pandemic. So, I mean, I don't know, can we talk that as an item about talking about what the official attendance is in the pool and get a percentage out and correct that? And the other thing in terms of Fred is I mentioned to some people his comment last time about, oh, well, we don't need a pool at all. We just need to get a pass with RTC and go to Henderson to do it. I told them that, and they freaked out and said, I'm leaving town. A lot of people relocated here because we had a nice community pool, and there's all the services that come along with the community pool. So I don't know if that's a topic or just something for discussion, or just respond to he's the only commentator that I of late. So
well, I certainly think we do need to take a look at the attendance, the use, the programs. There are various programs that are run there. What are the programs? How many participants are there in those programs? I don't think we need a huge amount of detail, but yes, I think it's very well worth informing the public of here's what does go on down there. Any other items? It is possible we will probably meet in 30 days, and the agendas must be submitted 19 days prior to the meeting. So if you, think, we need to talk about this or that, you can certainly let me know. You can contact Julie or someone at Parks and Rec. But again, we don't have a great deal of time, so we have to have it on the agenda in order to be able to discuss it. So if there's something that comes to you next week, let's make sure we get it on the agenda then. All right, we will move then to our final public comment period. Comments during this period of time can be on any item, any issue, and the phone number is 702-589-9629. Again, this is our final public comment period. The phone number is 702-589-9629.
Public comment, go ahead.
Yes, again, committee members, for the record, Fred Volz. Even if taxes are not raised to pay for the pool you've been discussing today, diverting finite public money from other, more necessary capital projects impacting far more city residents is not serving the best interests of the 99% of Boulder City's population that will never use the municipal pool complex. This issue will come up in any election campaign trying to seek approval for this expensive and unnecessary project. Look to the 2019 statistical reports from Parks and Recreation for the pool attendance numbers, and they support what has been said. Anecdotal reports about what people want don't support the 2018 election results on the pool bond. Thank you.
Thank you. The phone line is available. If anyone would like to call in for public comment, the phone number is 702-589-9629. And just to confirm, Ms. Callaway, were there any email comments for the final public comment period?
No, sir.
Thank you. This is the final public comment period. The phone number is 702-589-9629. All right, hearing no others, we will close the final public comment period. Thank you all for participating, and we are adjourned. Don't forget to seat Tammy.